Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Make sure you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So today I wanted to talk about Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis because it seems like either one of them is going to be the Republican nominee. And it all really comes down to if Trump wants to run or not. I believe that Donald Trump should run. I think he has unfinished business. However, if he decides that he doesn't really want to run, that would be fine as long as Ron DeSantis would take his place. And we have a lot of questions about electability. Who is more electable in what state? This is not an election prediction or a Republican primary because Trump and DeSantis are not going to run against each other. It's pretty obvious that they are very good friends. They were playing golf this past weekend. Trump was playing golf with Ron DeSantis. They were having a very good time, and they are friends, and I think that is a very good thing. I like Donald Trump, and I like Ron DeSantis a lot too. I had a debate with David Chapman earlier in the week about whether DeSantis could really win or if he would be a decent shot to take the mantle away, and if he would be able to get Trump's base out and win if Trump decides not to run and DeSantis is the nominee. So obviously, it seems like the right on Twitter and everywhere else is divided. Some people want Trump to run again. I'd say around 65% of people do. About 35% of people want DeSantis, and that number seems to be increasing. So I'd like to talk about this and see who is more electable in what state. And I will be focusing on all the states, but there will be a specific focus. I'll talk more about swing states here. But first, I do have to tell you guys about my good friends over at My Patriot Supply. These days, the future is still more uncertain than ever, especially with the trial that's going on in Minneapolis. We saw what happened last summer, and depending on how it goes, we may see that on steroids this year. That's why people who know what's coming are using today to prepare. You can't wait until the last moment because by then it's too late. And the most important thing you need is long-term storage emergency food. It stays fresh for up to 25 years and will be there when you need it. I strongly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leader in self-reliance. They're the only source I use for emergency food planning. And right now, save $50 off a 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 plus calories a day. Calories give you the energy you need to survive, and saving $50 is impossible to pass up, but supplies are limited. Order by 3 p.m., and your order ships the same day. So go to preparewithredeagle.com and stock up now. That's preparewithredeagle.com. There is no time to lose. Do it now. All right, everybody. So we're going to start on this map here. We're going to go state by state. I think it would be actually more beneficial to start off on the West Coast and then work our way to the East Coast. So California, I expect Trump and DeSantis to do just about the same with Hispanic voters. DeSantis may even have a little bit more of an edge. However, I would say that there's more college-educated whites in California that have been drifting away from the Republican Party. And even though Hispanics made a big turn to the right in California in 2020, the state didn't really move that much to the right. I think DeSantis would be a much better candidate in the state of California because he would do much better with the suburbs. Oregon is kind of a mixed bag. I'd say that the anger turnout you see from people in Portland would probably be a little bit lower in Oregon. DeSantis probably would do better in Oregon and Washington because they are fairly suburban states in terms of where the concentration of the population really is, and in terms of the left-wing turnout that would be higher if Donald Trump was running, because a lot of people on the left are really angered by Donald Trump's presence, even though Trump does energize the right probably a little bit more than somebody like Ron DeSantis would. DeSantis probably would do better in Nevada and Arizona as well. You talk about fairly suburban states, large Hispanic populations. DeSantis probably would do a little bit better in New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah as well. I would expect that the Mormons would come out heavily for Ron DeSantis, more so than Trump, because DeSantis has the, nuclear family type of vibe going on. He's got a wife, he's got kids. Donald Trump, however, he's kind of like this brash and bold New York businessman who he's not really that, pro-family values. I think they'd be more comfortable coming out for someone like DeSantis. And I think DeSantis would do better in Idaho and Wyoming. The state of Texas as well, because of the suburbs in the state of Texas. I think he would do better in Texas. Trump, however, I think would do better in Louisiana. He'd do better in Mississippi. He'd do better in Alabama. possibly Tennessee and Kentucky as well. The Appalachian area would come out heavily for Donald Trump. I don't want people to get the wrong idea when they see this video and think that just because I filled out all the states, all the West Coast states for DeSantis, that Trump is not more electable in certain parts of the country, because he absolutely is. And Trump energizes the right space like none other. And Arkansas as well. I think Oklahoma, that one's definitely a toss-up, but I think Trump may have the edge in Oklahoma. Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri. These are all states that I think Trump would perform a lot better than Ron DeSantis. The state of Michigan as well. That is definitely a big one. I think DeSantis could win Michigan if he has a good day, but I think that the state would vote to the right of the national environment more if Donald Trump was the nominee for the Republicans. Definitely DeSantis would do better in like Kent County, Ottawa County, Oakland County. Trump probably would do a little bit better in Macomb County. He'd do a little bit better in the I-94 corridor going down the western part of the state. He'd also do probably better in Pennsylvania, even though I think it would be close. He'd do much better in western Pennsylvania. DeSantis would do much better in the Philadelphia suburbs. I think both of them could win it, but DeSantis' map would look a little bit more like Toomey's than Trump's 2016 victory in the state of Pennsylvania. Illinois, however, I think DeSantis would have the upper edge just because of Chicagoland. I think Trump would do much better outstate than Ron DeSantis, but probably not by a super big margin. I just think turnout would really matter. Turnout is what this is all going to come down to. So Trump may do better in New York State just because he is, from New York. He'd do, I think, a little bit better upstate. I think DeSantis would do better potentially in, the suburbs, but probably not as good as Trump. Trump did improve over Romney and McCain in places like Staten Island, and I believe on parts of Long Island as well. So keep that in mind. DeSantis would do much better in Virginia because I think he'd do a little bit better in Nova. Not by much, but I think he'd do a little bit better. And I think he would do better in the state than Trump because it is suburban. Same thing with Maryland. D.C. as well, even though it's probably like 1% either way. It's not going to make much of a difference. Florida, I think DeSantis would probably have the edge for clear reasons just because he was governor there. Even though Trump would do well. I think DeSantis, however, could take the state by like 7 to 8 points. I think Trump could maybe take it by 4 to 5 if he's the nominee in 2024, but we'll have to wait and see. North Dakota and South Dakota, I think Trump would do better in these states. They're very rural states. They are big oil states. I think Trump is probably more pro-oil than somebody like Ron DeSantis. DeSantis, I think, is pro-oil, although he doesn't want to like drill in the Everglades, and I don't really think he should because it is like a wildlife sanctuary. He's more of a conservationist, which I don't think that they're necessarily contradictory to each other. You could be a conservationist and support drilling in certain parts of the country. You could support fracking. He hasn't really made that stance clear yet, but I think Trump would do better because Trump is always known as, a pro-oil guy. I think Trump and DeSantis, I think Trump would do a little bit better in Montana, potentially. Nebraska, I think he'd do better in Nebraska at large in the 3rd. I think DeSantis would do better in the 1st and the 2nd districts of the state of Nebraska. The state of Kansas, with Johnson County's growth, this one is hard. I think it's going to be a toss-up either way between Trump and DeSantis. I really think that DeSantis would do better in like the suburban parts. I think Trump would do better in the rural parts. But I think DeSantis would have the upper edge in the state of Kansas because he seems to be a little bit open-minded when it comes to like economic issues. Kansas economically is not a super right-leaning state. If you look at the fact they really rejected Brownback in 2014, he only won by like 3 points in a really red wave election. So keep that in mind. And Kobach would have won in 2018, I feel like, if he was a little bit more populist economically, because he was really populist on, social issues, was really tough on immigration and the border. But when it came down to, economics, not so much. He tied himself to the Brownback admin a little bit too much, and as a result, didn't help him. So Alaska, I think DeSantis probably would have the edge in both Alaska. I don't know. Hawaii's a tough one. I probably would say Trump, given his improvement there, but anything could happen with that one. But I think Alaska, judging on the fact that a lot of the population is concentrated in Fairbanks and Anchorage, and Trump did regress a little bit in the state, I think DeSantis may have the upper hand. Either way, I don't think either of them would lose the state of Alaska. Georgia, definitely DeSantis would be a better fit for the Atlanta suburbs than Donald Trump. South Carolina, I still think Trump would have the upper edge there. Yes, they vote in all these neocons and rhinos for statewide offices in the Senate and Congress and things like that, but Trump did win the state by 14. Romney only won it by 8 or 9, so keep that in mind. DeSantis is not Romney. He is very much in lockstep with Trump, but I think Trump would energize the base a little bit more in the state of South Carolina. So North Carolina, I think this one's going to be close. I'll give the edge to DeSantis because I think he would do better than Trump in the Charlotte metro, and that is where Trump regressed a little bit. But either way, I think both of them would win the state against Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or really whoever. So Wisconsin and Minnesota, DeSantis I would give the edge to in Minnesota because Minneapolis has such a stranglehold of all the power on the state. Wisconsin I would give to Trump because I think it would do better in the driftless, although I think DeSantis would do better in the WOW counties. So either way, I think both of them would win Wisconsin. Michigan and Pennsylvania, not so sure, but I think DeSantis does have the upper edge in the state of Wisconsin over a Democrat, obviously. So New Jersey, definitely New Jersey and Connecticut. DeSantis, he's Italian, do very well in those states. In fact, I think he could make them, I wouldn't say competitive, but they could be closer than you would traditionally expect. I think DeSantis would do better in Massachusetts. I think he would do better in Maine's 1st district, but I think Trump would probably do better in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine at large, and Maine 2nd. Delaware and Rhode Island, these are two interesting states. So I really have to give Delaware to DeSantis because of Wilmington and Newcastle County having so much power in the state. And I probably would say Trump may do a little bit better in Rhode Island. So here we go, 213 to 325. But keep in mind, this is not exactly a fair comparison. DeSantis does better than Trump in a lot of safe blue states. And like places like California and New Jersey, that weighs it down definitely. Florida is not going to be that competitive. Texas isn't going to be that competitive. So DeSantis has the upper edge over Trump in the 3 largest states, but I think Trump would win 2 of them, obviously Texas and Florida, and I think that California is obviously going to go blue no matter what. So you look at the swing states here, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, those 3 are going to be razor thin. Those 3 would favor Trump. Arizona and Georgia would favor DeSantis. So that's really what it comes down to. It's roughly a wash. It really depends. And I think DeSantis would be really good on the ticket with Trump. I think Trump-DeSantis would be good, but you can't do that unless Trump changes his residency to another state simply because of the fact that it's forbidden in the Constitution for the president and VP to be from the same state unless they forfeit that state's electoral votes. So if Trump and DeSantis were both from like a safe blue state or like a state worth 3 electoral votes, they could do it. They can't really do it in this scenario when it comes down to Florida because that's 31 electoral votes. It's possible Trump and DeSantis could win without Florida, but they would have to get, I believe they'd have to get 300 plus electoral votes, and that's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. I think it would happen against Kamala Harris, but I don't think it's guaranteed. And you got to keep that in mind. So we'll see what happens in 2024. Comment down below who you want. Do you want Trump or DeSantis? Also comment down below who you think is more electable. I think DeSantis is more electable in the Sun Belt. I think Trump is more electable in the Rust Belt. I think you'd run up the margins in places like Appalachia as well. DeSantis, I think, would do a little bit better than Trump in a place like California, Virginia, but I don't think those states are really going to be that competitive anyways, especially California. It's not going to happen. But I think DeSantis could get in the high 30s. So we'll really just have to wait and see. I want to see what you guys have to say about the video. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below. Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.